Hello, welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me hanging out should be linked in the description box below this video. Welcome today. I am going to be chatting about my April making plans in this video today. So just in case you haven't seen one of these videos before, just a quick recap as to why I do this. So there's a couple of reasons really. The first is I am someone who likes to have a lot of projects on the needles at any one time. I find I've spoken about it quite a few times here on the channel. I find that getting started on a project can be quite a big barrier for me. I know it's mostly in my head, but the gathering of yarn, needles, pattern, all the stuff you need to get started often has me kind of procrastinating, and it leads me to kind of not being as creative or productive as I would like. So I like to have a lot of projects on the go to choose from, but that in turn can mean that I have a tendency to pick up lots of different things throughout any sort of given time period, make a little bit of progress on everything, but I'm never really making inroads into any one particular project or getting things done. So for 2021 I decided that I would try and really focus in on a few projects each month to help me progress on those. That's the reasoning behind me sitting down at the start of each month and trying to figure out what I'm going to turn my attention towards in the upcoming weeks. I am the sort of person who does not kind of beat themselves up if I don't hit my targets though. So I call this a path to follow rather than a goal. So if I get to the end of the month and some of these things remain untouched, then I don't kind of feel badly about that. So that works for my personality type. I know for some people if they set goals and don't hit those goals, it can be quite demoralizing, but this is just what works for me. It may not work for everyone. So this month for May, I'm going to do something a little bit different than I have been doing for the preceding months in 2021. I've had this kind of idea, this thought rumbling around in my head for a little while. You may have noticed on the channel this year that I am really enjoying my spinning, so creating hand spun yarn. And the thought occurred to me, wouldn't it be fun to just choose a month where I work on nothing but hand spun projects? And I was kind of mulling this over and I thought, oh, that would be amazing for August, that's my birthday month. Wouldn't it be great to kind of really take a deep dive into hand spun yarns for your birthday as a little treat to yourself? And then almost immediately that thought popped into my head. I was like, well, hang on a minute. One of the things that you were also trying to focus on this year is to get away from that mindset where something's too special to use, or we'll do that one day. So why wait till August? Why not do it now? And if you love it, you can also do it again in August. There's nothing stopping you doing that. So for May, I'm going to be choosing to work on projects from hand spun yarn only. So yeah, I'm really excited about this idea. It's also kind of a stealthy underhand excuse to cast on some new projects. And yes, I have plenty of projects on the needles already, but I only have two at the moment that feature hand spun yarn. And one of them, my hand spun, is the colour work in a yoked sweater, and I've actually knit the colour work section, and what I've got left to knit is the main bulk of the sweater, which is knit from commercial yarn. So really I've only got one project already on the needles. Yeah, it's kind of a not so subtle excuse to cast on some new things. Let me tell you about some of the plans that I have. I'm still going to stick with my theme of having a project that I will commit to working on every day. And then around that I'll have some other projects sort of coming in and out as and when I fancy. So the project that I'm going to work on every day, or commit to working on every day, is the one hand spun project that I have on the needles already. So I have dug this basket out from the corner where it has been hibernating for a long time. If you've been here for some time, you will maybe have followed my journey of spinning up this sweater quantity of yarn. This is a combo spin. I picked out quite a few different braids from my fibre stash that all contained my favourite colour, orange, and I did a combo spin, just spinning them all together to make these really sort of crazy fun yarns. And my lovely friend Jeanette, hi Jeanette if you're watching, kindly gifted me the Weekender sweater pattern, and I have started knitting up the Weekender sweater. This is going to be my crazy Technicolor sweater of dreams. As you can see, the front and the back are really quite different, and yeah, I'm just going to enjoy knitting through this basket of hand spun to make this amazing crazy colourful sweater, and we'll see how it goes. And this is kind of a worsted Allen weight sweater, I think, if I'm remembering rightly off the top of my head. So I'm hoping that I'll get to see quite some progress on that throughout the month of May. Now, alongside that, I've got a couple of other projects that I would like to work on. I'm really hoping that by choosing to work with my hand spun, this will also give me the focus to start at least one, if not two, weaving projects. I've been really wanting to get back to some weaving, but somehow I just haven't been able to find the time to prioritise it. And I've got two spins that I would really like to weave with. The first one is this beautiful skein of fibre that I spun up earlier on this year this is from Attic Spin Dye, and it was in the Foxy colourway, and I spun it into a gradient kind of. I do have some footage of me spinning through this, and I'm going to try and get a video up about it at some point during May too, so you can find out a little bit more about this yarn. But I would love to spin this into a scarf or a wrap. A second possibility for weaving, along the same lines, I'd really like to try and spin a scarf or a wrap. I have this singles yarn. This is BFL, Blueface Leicester, and it was a fibre club from Nellie and Eve, and Nellie and Eve have a monthly natural dyed fibre club, and this was one of the months of the club. Let me see if I think it was back from January 2020. And yeah, I deliberately kept, I think I spindle spun this, and I deliberately kept it as singles yarns with the idea of trying to weave with it. So those are a couple of potential weaving projects. The next thing I would like to look at is recently I finished this fleece spin. So this was a Jacob Ryland fleece that was kindly gifted to me by the lovely Charlie of Charlie Button Yarns. Hi Charlie if you're watching. And I recently finished spinning through all of this. I haven't yet measured this to see exactly how much yarn I've got. So my thoughts are at some point during May I would like to measure this, maybe knit up a little swatch and try and decide what project to use this yarn for. It may be that I just go through the process of measuring, swatching and deciding. It may be that I don't actually cast on for this project. We'd really love to kind of have a purpose penciled in for this particular spin. So that is also on my goals list for May. And then also I would like to cast on for 2 pairs of socks, and these are going to be really quite different. So the first pair of socks I'm going to make from this skein of yarn that I spun up probably at some point last year. And again, this is fibre from Attic Spin Dye. I spun this up into a 3-ply yarn. It is a superwash merino and nylon blend, perfect for socks, and I just haven't had the opportunity to cast this on. This is kind of a sport to DK weight, which is what my 3-plies at the moment tend to be. I'm still striving to get the sort of perfect 3-ply fingering weight yarn for socks, but still eluding me at the moment, although I am getting closer. But I do have another sort of sport DK weight pair of socks that I knit from my hand spun that I wore a lot this winter, and I really enjoyed wearing them. So I think it's about time that this skein stops languishing in my stash and gets turned into socks too. So you cast this on quite quickly. I think that'll be a nice one to work on alongside the sweater project. The second pair of socks that I have to knit are going to be made from yarn that was not spun by me. It was spun by a lovely shepherd who lives local to me. Her name is Jane Bissett, and she is undertaking a project to gather fleeces from all of the breeds that are based here in the Vale of Glamorgan, which is the county that I live in, and she's having the fleeces spun up and knit up into socks. And when we are able to gather and do shows again, the idea is that these socks will go on display at one of the local agricultural shows that we have here in Wales. So I have some yarn to spin from Jane, and it's a very, very special blend. I'm not going to tell you anything about this blend because I think it'll be nice to do a separate video on this particular knit, and I'll reveal all then. But if anyone has any guesses as to what they think might be in this yarn, then please do leave them below. As I say, it's an interesting fibre blend. So yeah, those are kind of my definite concrete plans. So lots of knitting and hopefully a little bit of weaving. I do have quite a big hand spun stash now. It needs cataloguing, and I'm pretty sure there's probably a video on the channel from about this time last year where I sat and catalogued all of my hand spun to date and boldly proclaimed that from that point on I was going to be more organised and start labelling my hand spun, measuring it before I packed it away so that it would be easy to know exactly what I have. And has that happened? No. So I'd also like to do an exercise where I catalogue all of my hand spun stash, so to get caught up on that and to properly label and identify the things that are in my hand spun stash. And as I'm doing that, I am going to also try and think about, similarly to this project, trying to maybe match up some of my hand spun yarns with some possible patterns. And I'd really like to utilise some of the beautiful pattern books that I have in my stash for that. I have lots of issues of magazines like Pom Pom. I have a few issues of Making magazine, and I've got a whole plethora of beautiful pattern books for both knitting and crochet in my little library. I'm looking over the top of the camera because my little library section is just behind us over the other side of the room, and I tend to forget about these pattern books. And knitting this hand-spun monster from a Rebecca Danger book that I own, and also knitting the moose that I finished last month from one of the issues of Making magazine that I had me thinking much more about the patterns and the books that I already have, and that I should make an effort to utilise those more. So yeah, I'm going to have a bit of a reorg of my hand spun stash, and it's possible that a couple more projects may jump onto the needles as a result of that. I'm going to just spend some time trying to match up yarn and potential patterns. It will be just a good exercise in reminding myself what I already have and picking out some potential uses for those. I am excited about the possibilities of working with handspun all month, and it will be fun to see how many new projects I've managed to cast on by the end of it. I'm going to try not to go too overboard. I'm going to try and concentrate on the few that I know I definitely want to make progress on or to cast on, and then if one or two others hop onto the needles, then I won't be cross about that, but I shall see what I get inspired to do as I give my handspun stash a little bit of a reorganise and start thinking about what I have. So let me know in the comments below whether you have any recommendations for patterns that you know work well with handspun yarn. Perhaps it's a pattern that you've knit with your own handspun that you've really enjoyed. And of course, in general, please do let me know what you're planning to work on in April, because I always love to be inspired by your beautiful projects and your makes. I think that's everything from me today, so I'm going to sign off. I'll be back again soon with some more content here on the channel. I hope you will join me for that. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.